So we are, where are we? We're day 20 of our Thailand ride. So we are now 2/3 of the way through. And so great to see you on this morning. Great to see the enthusiasm and just everybody's continuing to punch out those Ks. So we are loving it. So today we're moving on to, well, we are on day 6 of the 8-day Thailand ride. And so we're on our way from Lang Swan to Surat Thani. And we start to cross over Thailand now as we head towards the national park and some of the rolling hills and the fun stuff at the back end of the ride. So enjoy the scenery this morning. And today we're joined by Pete and Cam Merchant, and they're going to have a chat this morning, help us get through these Ks. But let me tell you a little bit about Cam. So cricket enthusiast, 36 from Sydney, has a passion and enthusiasm for life, motivation, and helping people find potential and happiness. Previously travelling the world and achieving a childhood dream of becoming a professional cricketer, Cam found a balance in life when he found himself in the middle of the Boxing Day tsunami in Phuket, Thailand in 2004, losing and being separated from his parents for over 8 hours and having no choice but to keep hope and help others around him. Also known for marrying his beautiful bride, Jules, on Married at First Sight, Cam became a male guidance on Channel 9's hit reality program as he became a rock for young men on the show and around Australia, for showing his expression and passion for mental health and that it's okay to show your emotions and how important talking about your feelings are. Cam appreciates every day with a smile and knows how to have fun, inspire others and get the best out of everyone. We're all looking forward to hearing more about Cam's story, so I'm going to hand it over to Pete.
Thanks, CT. Good morning, Cam. Thanks for joining us bright and early on this Saturday morning.
Peter, absolute pleasure, and thank you for having me, mate. If there's anything that's making me feel lazy right now is watching you do an interview whilst riding through Thailand. Now, this is spectacular, mate. Well done to you and to the whole team that's doing it along. So morning to you guys. Amazing.
Good on you, mate. I'm actually just bobbing on my chair. I create.
Can I do the same? Yep, no problem.
It doesn't look like I'm not riding, but mate, it was fantastic you could join us today. And when we announced to the team that you were going to be part of it, there was a whole lot of fangirling that went on, and I said, they're going, oh, he's such a beautiful man, and you know, having caught up and spent some time together, I went, yeah, he is actually a really nice bloke. So this impression that's out there that you're just this wonderful, loving human is true. So it's great to spend some time and explore a bit more of the story, mate. So whereabouts did you grow up?
Thanks, mate. Yeah, I grew up in Sydney. I've been a Sydney resident all my life, and it is funny. I'll just tap on that really quickly. It is funny what you talk about when people say, "Is he this really? That's what I think he is, or that's what he could be, or he shows." And it's so funny. Recently, had so many friends, and they asked the same thing: Is Cam really that person, or is it just a sort of a put on? Is that where it's going? Is it a mask for socials or whatever it is, or since being on the show? And my close friends will shut that down straight away and say no, because that was him well before the show. That was him all the time. He's just this positive vibe that has always been like that. But but there's been a journey to get there, and appreciation for life, and I think that's where it's come from. So. And it's wonderful to be able to share that with you today, Pete, and to so many other people. So it does exist. It's real, but there's all types of experiences behind that has led me to my consistent sort of happiness over the last 6 years, which leads to now, mate, to be able to share that and share that with a smile. So thank you for allowing me to do that and just chatting with you, mate. So I was Sydney.
Yes, Sydney grew up. Yep.
Yeah, Sydney, born and bred, and headed to school, local school around Killarney Heights region. But I was always passionate for sport and loved sport in general. Massive Manly Sea Eagles fan. Apologies to anyone that's not. And love my cricket, love my footy, things like that. And cricket was always a certainly a passion of mine, and so was rugby union at the time. When I went to St Pius and played both sports,
Yeah.
and just absolutely adored them. That was always, and my father was an amazing role model to me to always. It was never too early or too late to just throw me balls in the backyard or just kick the footy. So I sort of get that passion and that appreciation from him. That's for sure.
And was it the case, mate, that it was clear to the coaches and teachers and so forth that there was a real talent when it came to cricket?
Yeah, I'd like to think there was. There was always a certain passion. There was a talent. There was skill there. I started to make rep teams from sort of the age of 12 onwards and show some potential for it. But I think I was always talking about it. I had pictures of cricketers on my school books and laminated on my folders and posters in my room. So it was always a big part of me. I think I knew more about statistics of cricket more than I knew what was happening in a maths exam. So my dad would always say, mate, you're being able to remember your knowledge of what happened back in 1993 at the Gabba in a test match is amazing, but can you put that towards learning and remembering what's going on for tomorrow's exam or things like that? So that was always the forefront of my mind, that's for sure.
And leaving school, was it for you, was there cricket, and cricket? or was there something that if that didn't work out, that you had an interest, passion, or something you thought you'd pick up later? What was going on?
Yeah, funny enough, about sort of the age of 14, it was cricket and rugby, funny enough, and I was probably equally as good as each other. And my actual goal at one stage was to continue to play rugby union and then transfer over to the Manly Sea Eagles. And that was a genuine thought that I had. But unfortunately, I broke my leg at the age of 14, and that closed up that door, and that decision just said, okay, well, cricket's for you. So sometimes in life we get decisions that are made for us, and the road that leads to cricket. So leaving high school, it was the forefront of my mind. I started playing first grade at quite a young age, so that the opportunities were definitely there if I worked hard to become a professional cricketer, and that was it. I passed. I was a half exceptional student, but I passed everything, all my exams and everything like that. But just uni, for some reason, I just knew that university just wasn't for me at that stage. And cricket was going to be my passion, and I was going to pursue that.
And is there outside of the Australian team, is there an opportunity for someone to play state first class cricket and make a living?
There was. As I was growing up, professional contracts had continued to rise. There was certainly if we're talking purely a pay packet, then that was there, and there was a carrot that was dangling, that if you made it into first class cricket and in state level, then you were able to make a good living out of it. And that's what I sort of focused on. But I think through that, I still did work. I still made wonderful connections whilst that was helping me create my dream. And that was through many jobs in the business world. And I just thought that at that stage, I think you focus and you start to learn about yourself, and sitting down and concentrating and focusing on studying didn't quite work for me. But creating relationships and learning business, that more interested me. And I thought if it was going to be cricket, was going to be one thing, but sort of that business side and relationships was going to be the next thing that allowed me to move on and progress in my career.
Cam, why, the Boxing Day Test match or a good 2020 will fill the MCG, fill stadiums, across Australia. Why do the crowds not go to state cricket like that?
I just think that the caliber of players are still amazing, but the atmosphere, the hype all around it just doesn't quite match it. And they're during the week. People are going to take time off to go to 4-day cricket during like that. So it doesn't quite get the it's not quite the spectacle that is the hype of an international cricket match, which is next level and quite special.
Boxing Day 2004. As you know, we've spent time together talking about the impact on so many people, on hands. It came from the events of 2004. Thousands of lives taken, lost, and tens of thousands of lives impacted in a way that people will never forget. 2004, Boxing Day, you're in Thailand. Tell us about what took you there to start with.
Yeah, mate. I think just even starting from that, I find life just so amazing. The fact that our paths have crossed, and to find us here now talking to each other, I just find so remarkable. So I'm sort of definitely blessed for that, mate. And that we've had both a completely different perspective on that time. Me being in the middle of it, witnessing it, and yourself obviously there, forensics and helping and leading to what you're doing now. I just find absolutely amazing. So I just wanted to touch on that to start. So again, congratulations, mate. Just amazing. As I'm just watching the journey, there was a dog that just ran past then. I hope everyone didn't cycle past that dog. So I was 20 at the time, 2004. I was going over to celebrate my 21st. My birthday is January 4. I took I'm an only child. I took my mum and dad over for a Christmas gift. We flew in Christmas Eve. We landed in Phuket, in Patong there, right on the beach, beautiful hotel. And funny enough, we got into our hotel. I booked a pool room right on the bottom, right next to the pool, pool underground. It wasn't meant to be. They'd overbooked and they'd sent us to level 3. No problems. We ended up having Christmas Day there, and it was one of the most beautiful Christmases we've ever had as a family. We were on the beach, we were meeting locals, we were meeting other tourists that are also celebrating. Beers were flowing, margaritas, you name it. We were having it. It was just a day out in the sun. It was a wonderful, enjoyable experience that was Christmas. I'd end up going out sort of that night, and mum and dad went to bed at respective hours. They'd had a pretty good day, as you can imagine. In the morning, mum took off, and she's got an amazing ritual. Every morning she will walk no matter where it is, what it is, just to get moving. It's the first thing she does in the morning. It's the first time I've ever been able to say this, but I genuinely, honestly believe that alcohol saved her life. I've got no doubt at all, because she walked along the beach, along Patong, and I reckon she got about halfway, and then she just went, oh, you know what, feeling a little bit dusty here, I think I'll just head back. So she did that. I was coming back from the mountains and sort of came back into town. As that was happening, the reception had just given my folks a call to say, Cam, we've just got your room is ready underneath ground level. Mum and dad were both packing their luggage, getting everything, when just out of nowhere, bang, a massive clap, huge bang had hit. And mum and dad originally just thought a bomb's gone off. That's exactly what it sounded like. A genuine bomb has gone off, and it's very close by. With that, about literally within 15 minutes later, an absolute surge of water, which was the tsunami, had just filled the hotel up completely, and people were just in hysterics and had no idea what to do. As you can imagine, and like you said, mate, unfortunately, we were looking at that time, 230,000 people lost their lives over the Asia Pacific, and it was a devastating time. But this was something that was so uncommon, and no one knew what to do. No one knew where it was. There were no plans in place for it, as you would have known. And that's where it started. Surge just ran through the beachfront hotel. people running, screaming, didn't know where to go, and that was the start of it. Once I came back into the hotel, we're looking at streets. We're looking at 2 streets back, and it would have been knee height in water.
So at this point, Cam, your mum and dad at the hotel, and you're on your way back to the hotel. So you're separated from them.
Correct.
And you don't know where they are at this time. Is that right?
That's right, mate. Yes. So I came out, and when I came back to the hotel, the water's still surging through. It's knee high, and I just, obviously looking around, knocked on my door and just asked, see if anyone was there. The hotel was sort of vacant already. The water's still surging through. So they'd actually taken, they disappeared. I had absolutely no idea where they were, and I could only ask, have you seen my parents? You see what's going on? And they just said, no, we can't. And sir, you have to get away. We cannot allow you to be here anymore. And at the time, I just remember thinking, you know what, I know that I need to find them, and I'm not going anywhere until I do. And he sort of, it was a hotel manager at the time, and he sort of understood that. But with that, I also knew that there was so much panic around, and there was so many people that were still stressed and under a lot of pressure and really scared, trying to find their loved ones. And I just knew that at that time, all I could do was just settle, because I was a bit dusty at the time as well. And I tell you what, it helped me to relax, because I couldn't quite, the cognitive brain wasn't truly switched on to think what's happening here.
Yeah.
And for me, it felt like at one stage, it felt like a Steven Spielberg movie. There were cars being just picked up and thrown into local shops and stores and windows, and being swept, cars being turned over and flipped and turned and swept along the roads. So it was like, okay, all right, this is real, but I'm actually quite calm, and I've got the opportunity to help people that are in my sights. And that was what I set out to do at the time, and I did. And I just couldn't worry about my folks right then and there. I just had to worry about the situation and the process around me.
Cam, how long did it go for that you came back, the water's coming in, and there's obviously, as you said, the damage occurring, and there's power lines coming down, there's just destruction, there's screaming, there's people hurt. How long before there was a level of calmness where the water stopped surging and you felt, okay, the immediate threat to my safety has passed?
I think that continued the whole way through, because we were still in a really unknown zone, because 2 waves had hit. There was a third. No one knew what was to come.
Yep.
And that was always an anxious moment, where people just knew, okay, we have to get what's in our control and move away, to be able to protect everyone and ourselves from, if it happens again, it happens soon, to make sure that everyone's safe. I would have been there for at least 2 hours down on ground level, running around, just calming, getting people help to get on their bus, their shelter, and at the same time looking for my parents, and I didn't. At the end, I was away from my parents for 8 hours, and in that time, that feels like an absolute eternity. It did get to a stage where the water had surged and everything was starting to clear, or at least just ease a little bit. I remember looking at the pool, and it was it was a mess. There was tuk-tuks in it, and you're talking from the street. It's it's come 50 to 100 meters off the street and just landed a tuk-tuk right in the middle of the hotel pool, which is something you don't expect at any time. And I remember looking at our original apartment a hotel room that we booked, and it was ground level, underneath ground level of hotel pool, and it was filled to the top with water. And again, these little things that you never know, because that was our room, and you never know, because that was one of the first rooms that got filled up, and there was just floating clothes that were sitting on the top, and you just thought, wow, someone's looking after me here right now, for us to not be able to get that room. And we stayed on level 2 for that moment. Bear in mind, getting ready to unpack into that room. It was like, okay. So it got to a stage where one of the manager said, mate, I'm sorry, you can't stay here anymore. We've got one last shuttle bus that's taking to the evacuation points up in the hills, and you have to be on it. We appreciate what you're doing here, but you just have to be on it. And I said, okay. And I sort of conceived that and got on board.
And at this stage, you're on your own. You don't know where mum and dad is. The tsunami happened about 10 o'clock in the morning. What time is it that you get on the shuttle bus?
This was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon is when people were starting to move, maneuver and get people there. I was there for a few hours on deck. And then it wasn't until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon that I started to go, okay, let's start to maneuver, and got on the shuttle bus, and it started to just drive around the city and take people where they needed to be and where they needed to drop off, until finally I would have been on the shuttle bus for a good hour as well to get back into safety and up top the hill. And there was this incline steep hill, and there was 3 evacuation points, and there was a few people on board the shuttle bus, and the driver said to us, okay, this is our first evacuation point. If you see someone that you know, please get off the bus. And we stopped there, and I looked out, and there was no one that I knew. Some people got off. We got to the second stop. Same thing happened. Some people got off. That's where they knew. And I was the last person on the shuttle bus, the last person. And the driver said to me, excuse me, sir, this is our last evacuation point, and I'm really sorry. I know you haven't found your parents, but you're going to have to get off no matter what, because you can't come back down onto ground. It's just too dangerous.
And before you get off the bus at that point, paint a picture for us of the mood inside the bus as people are loading onto the bus and they're heading up. Is there silence? Is there support for one another? People crying? What's the feeling inside the bus?
There was, the feeling was quite eerie. There was a lot of silence, but you could feel there was a lot of, if you had couples that were there, they were very close and they were very united, and they were there for each other, which was really special. It was a different feeling to know, okay, we're going through something that's quite drastic at the moment, but we're here for each other. And I was sort of just there on my own, like a school kid that had, on his first day at school with no friends, no one at all. And it was just me. And I felt at that time, I felt very alone. And when people get off, they'd still say good luck and we wish you all the best and prayers for you. But I remember going up the 3rd evacuation point once the driver had said that to me, and I remember just thinking, wow, maybe this is how it is. And I've been away from my parents for this long now, and it's at that point that I started to think, okay, start preparing yourself for life after without both your folks, and it became real. It became real. It became that, well, why me? This does happen. Is this my reality? And if it is, okay, well, geez, it's a sad day, but we're gonna have to really stay strong and move on with life without them and start planning. So I genuinely did. I started to think, okay, what have we got to do? What have we got to get in place when we get back to Australia? How are we going to do this? So that reality set in, and then we obviously got to the 3rd evacuation point, and we pulled up, and I turned to my left, and it was still hot, and I looked, and without further ado, my dad ran around the corner. We just walked around the corner. He had a cigarette in one hand. He had a Bintang Thailand local shirt on with his thongs, and just dropped his cigarette, and I just held up 2 fingers. I didn't say anything. I just held up, and I just went, hey, mate. And he just threw his ciggy and just went, Cameron's here. And I got off, and my mum bolted around the corner and she's in absolute tears. And we just reunited and hugged so tightly. And you had this warmth that just came over us, but this round of applause and this happiness and joy from everyone there would have been 500 to 1,000 people that were just crammed on this mountain evacuation point. And there would have been nothing but a balcony that there's and seating, and everyone just slowly just came in to just greet me and greet mum, and it was the most amazing feeling I think has ever come over me, because it was just pure joy and relief and a lot of happiness as well, to just think, okay, only a minute ago I was thinking of living my life without these important loved ones, and now they're right in front of me, and it's been a long day, and it was very special. And you had so many people just, Cameron, we've heard so much about you, and because all mum had to do during that time was speak, have you seen my son? He's yay high and he looks like this, and so many beautiful people at that time had never seen me, but had said, yep, I know your son, Cameron. Yep, we've seen him. He's going to be okay. And I'm absolutely always thankful of those people, because even though they had to just have a white lie during that time, but that was the thing that kept my mum calm and relaxed and gave her that glimmer of hope. And that was all that was needed during that time until we were reunited. So
the crisis, disaster, adversity brings out the best of people, the best of humanity. And that's what you saw at that checkpoint on that day, yeah?
It certainly was, mate, because you just realise just how lucky you are, but it also puts things in perspective. And we were still, we got a bus to the hotel where they were putting us up, and we walked into this hall. There would have been 500 of us. We walked into this hall, and it was like this free-for-all. We didn't know what to do. There were no instructions, and there was just this large, almost school hall that was just filled with single mattresses just laid out, one after the other, 500 of them. And it was just like, well, fend for yourself and just go for it. And we all had our little groups, and we got our little section in the corner, and we started to vent. And it was really therapeutic, because we started to go around in circles and start to talk about your experience and everyone's experience and what they'd dealt with. And I mean, we're talking still a gentleman that was, he said, I had my wife and I was on the beach and I had her in my arms, and the water came flooding through, and I grabbed a hold of a pole, and it sort of took us. And once the water let go, I didn't have her anymore. And we're listening to these stories and just thinking, this is tragic, and we need to be here for this gentleman, but we're going to spread the same hope and love as well. So we all sort of went through our stories, and it came to me, and I elaborated on the story that I just told you now. And a lady said to me, she looked me square in the eye, and she said, Cameron, it just wasn't your time. And I remember it so clearly, but I remember as a 20-year-old thinking, what do you mean it just wasn't my time? I don't quite understand you. She said, someone's looking out for you, and it just wasn't your time. Things aren't meant to be, and that's how they are. And I remember thinking about that statement over and over, and still to this day. And I remember thinking about the perspective of what I've just gone through, and thinking, okay, well, if it's not my time, when is it? When is my time? And is it tomorrow? You just don't know. So I'm going to live life to the absolute fullest, and I'm going to see everything. I'm going to do everything, and we're going to have this incredible journey of living life and experiences and just live it like it genuinely could be my last, like it almost was then. And from that time I did. And I think that compassion and that energy, enthusiasm for life sort of started from that moment.
It almost sounds like a cliche, doesn't it? To say that I've had this second chance and I'm going to live life to its fullest. But I guess until you've really been in that position, and I haven't, that we can't understand that feeling. But then the opportunity is before you, isn't it? It's to either live that life of every day is a blessing and a second chance, or it's to quickly move on from that. And I think one of the things that can be easily forgotten. You sit here as a 36-year-old man now, but this was unfolding just before your 21st birthday. So you don't have the wisdom and maturity that you've got today to deal with what you were dealing with. So take us through what happens after you have that first night in the evacuation centre, and how long there before you're able to be evacuated out, and what was that process like?
So the hotels were just frantic. We're talking beautiful hotel right in the middle of the city. You're talking more than probably 500 rooms, but every room was full, and then a hallway of 500 single mattresses that were just crammed like sardines.
Yeah.
And it was sort of a fend for yourself type thing, but you're walking through reception, you're meeting people, there's a real frantic feeling going on and vibe that's happening. There wasn't a lot of calmness about it, because you got to remember, then on the TV, everyone's watching what's happened and they're reliving it again. And they're trying to get updated with what actually happened and what's happening on the other side of the island, and the death toll rates rising. And so people are stressed, people are panicking, and they're trying to get out. They're trying to leave. But authorities are saying, no, unless you've got a ticket and to be able to fly out of Phuket, then unfortunately you're not going anywhere. People did, though. They didn't listen, and airports were just flooded. Just not flooded, sorry, bad terminology. We're just packed with people out the doors just trying to get out, but there was no hope, and all you could do was settle. We went back into town 2 days later once it all calmed, because a lot of people wanted their belongings or their goods or passports or whatever it was, and so we took a bus down there, and it was still a lot of panic, and there was a lot of sadness that was within that, and still as a 20-year-old kid, I look back at that and was quite proud, and the leadership that I showed there, because I sort of led that pack, and we had plans in place. Well, I put plans in place to say, because you had wives or girlfriends or partners that their partner was going to go to the hotel, get their things, and then come back, but they were stressed because they didn't know what would happen. So sort of calmed them, made a plan that we need to be there in 20 minutes, and all sync watches to make sure you're back in 20 minutes, because that just gave the partners or anyone else on bus that sense of relief to know, okay, we've got something in place, and it's not just going to, no one's just going to go rogue. And it was sort of a calming process of everyone there. And we went back into town, and I mean, the devastation that we saw with buses and cars still just flipped through buildings and in pools, and in shops, there was just floods of people that were actually draining out. And it was a really devastating sight, and obviously something that you would have seen through that, mate. That might have been the time where you headed over.
Yeah, well, you talk about the airport, how jam-packed it was, and I arrived into the airport, and it's probably like going to the airport right now. There was just no one. It was empty, and all of the walls of the airports were filled with those missing persons pictures that people put up their loved ones, and it was it couldn't have been more different than your experience there. So how long after this, when do you actually get out of the country? When do you and mum and dad fly home?
So we had our next connecting flight to Koh Samui, because I was still going to Koh Samui to celebrate for my 21st, and I had 10 of my best mates that we planned to come over and celebrate my 21st over there. So we thought, okay, what do we do? The Australian government's sending, I think, Qantas plane to go and pick up people. How do we go about it? And we were there for 4 days until our next flight to Koh Samui was. And we thought, well, is it safe? We did the research. Is it safe? Are we okay? And at least that's going to speed up the process to getting out of this zone. Yeah. So we made the call to continue on that flight, and we did. And we went to Koh Samui, and from there, my yeah, 10 of my best mates were all there waiting for me. And you can imagine the stress on their parents at the same time. They're all questioning, I'm not wanting you to fly over to Thailand, but once again, Koh Samui is on the other side. So it was safe, and we did. And it was bittersweet because what we'd just gone through, and we were able to just celebrate and quite calmly, actually, with as much gratefulness and appreciation as what we could during the time, but we still did. We didn't let it get the better out of us, and we did. We managed to have a lovely week in Koh Samui. I celebrated my 21st with 10 of my best mates, and again, that appreciation came over. They were thankful that I was still there because no one had heard from us back home for those couple of days, and knew that we were right in the thick of things. So it was a celebration of a bit of a different kind, a really, like I said, a real perspective of, okay, there's a lot of love here, and just be thankful of what we have. And like you said, mate, and there's putting those small things in place and the simple things in life and not taking them for granted. That was certainly one of those moments.
Cam, it took you a while to speak about your time in Thailand. Why and what was it that you got to the point where you thought, yeah, I'm okay to speak about it now?
It's a really interesting one, and to be honest, it's only taken me the last couple of years to figure this out, if not just this year. But I think I was so in leadership mode and everything's going to be okay, and I was always worrying about making sure my parents were first and foremost okay, and they're settled, and people around me, are they okay? And I never really worried about myself and how I was feeling and what I just experienced. So I sort of just, okay, put on the strong face and just did what I needed to do, then celebrated with my friends, and everything's okay. Once we got back to Sydney, to Australia, and there was where it'd be media or talking about it or talking to friends, and I always found myself, every time the conversation came up, I'd break out into this cold sweat. I literally just pouring, and my clothes would be drenched, and I just think, that's really bizarre. And once again, you're a 20-year-old kid, you're not understanding of what you've been through and symptoms of things that you are going through. So I'd have to just leave the room because I was so hot. And I think we've all experienced it at times where we're just like, I'm just going to get some air here. Do you mind? And you're wiping sweat from your brow and you think, this is embarrassing, like you are doing there, mate. But I wasn't riding 20 to 800K. So I was thinking, okay, that's really bizarre. Many years on, I just continued the same sort of thing. And until one day I just had a genuine breakdown, and it was nothing other than I think it was just watching a movie, and I broke down, and that was the end. And I think all these flooding emotions just came up, and they hit me, and I realized I'd never actually spoken about it. I'd never talked about it. I'd never vented. I'd never seen someone about it. I just worried about that moment, and these feelings were obviously deep down inside me.
Yeah, it's an amazing journey, and the wisdom that you had to see you through that and to deal with it. You head across in 2007 and start playing first-class cricket in New Zealand, and have a career in cricket following the events of 2004 Boxing Day, and that's your life until you hit the headlines, mate, and you make this appearance on Maps. How does that happen?
Well, I think it stems back to exactly what we're talking about, from the core of potentially that day. And that day, I remember, like I said, I remember saying, well, I'm just going to live life to the absolute fullest. And I think that's a lesson to anyone. You just can't leave any stone unturned. And that happened with cricket. I achieved a dream, and that I was very proud of, and I found a pathway to be able to do that. But you go through so many ups and downs, but you always come back to, geez, okay, things are good, things are all right, and put things in perspective. And I was always grateful for a lot. And I just found that happiness, and that consistent happiness, once I spoke about the tsunami and what I'd sort of gone through, and PTSD and some sort of really dark moments. You sort of you understand them, you call yourself back, and you just grab hold of a little bit of light and a little bit of hope that things can get better and you can feel better, and things will look and smell as the way they should, and find that happiness. And I did. I did it. And it wasn't in cricket. I found it through messaging of something like the tsunami, and finding that there is hope out there, and people can be happy, and you can be consistently happy. And I did, and I found that, which led me to then literally a beer in Manly Wharf, and I had a couple of producers come up and say, we're recruiting for a dating show. And I sort of went, it's not Married at First Sight, is it? Because I watched it last year and I thought it was quite entertaining. And they said, yes, are you interested? And I said, well, and at that stage, things were going well in my life. I was just happy. I was never looking for anything different other than just staying happy. And when something like that comes into your life, I said, okay, let's give it a go. What can go wrong? And
well, plenty. Have you not watched it? It can go wrong.
Absolutely. But you know what, Peter? There's one thing I never focused on, and it certainly wasn't the things that can go wrong. And I think that's where things can happen in today's life. We go into a situation, and we actually, already before we've even got there, we focus on the things that can go wrong rather than the things that can go right. And that's all I did. And if someone asked me today when I stepped down the aisle to say, mate, you're about to have 2 weddings and you're going to have a child, and you're going to have meet your best friend and you love your life, I would have said, please keep walking. Yeah. That doesn't exist. But it's happened. And I think it's purely because I was open to joy and to happiness. And it sounds a bit corny, but I was. I never for a minute had a thought that it was going to go wrong. For some others, unfortunately, it didn't. It did. But I didn't, I think. And both Jules and I had that perspective that we're open to something special here. And here we are, mate. So incredible.
It's a beautiful story, and I can hear Renee and Emma sobbing in the background right now, even though they're in different areas of Sydney. But you've just confirmed everything that people thought about you. And mate, yeah, as you say, you and Jules expecting your first child in September. What's life like now for you? What do you do? How, you've got this passion to help people and find their purpose and all of that. So what are you doing, and how can people be part of that?
Emma, fairy tales do happen, Emma. Yes, I can confirm, and they are still happening. So thank you. COVID's been a really interesting time, and I guess you look at the silver lining as well. Jules fell pregnant before. Congratulations, everyone. You finished for the day. Well done, Pete. Well done, team. And yeah, Jules fell pregnant, and we hadn't made the announcement yet, but we took COVID very seriously, and we bunkered down isolation about a month before it all happened. And it was great. Jules, you asked Jules, she's loving it because it wasn't too hot. We didn't have to go out. We sort of could just bunker down. She could just have a really relaxed indoor pregnancy, to be honest. So she's loving it. And it's still busy. It hasn't stopped, and we're grateful for that. But living in COVID, it was like doing the experiment all over again, because we were living in each other's pockets for 24/7 again. So we lived the experiment over again during COVID. We survived, I can tell you. And Jules was getting bigger and bigger by the day. And now it's sometimes you just go about your business and everything's great, and then you're sort of like, oh wow. And she wore yesterday a onesie top, a jumpsuit actually that she got. And during the day, I think we finished with a feed, and she actually popped out of it. Her buttons just exploded, and she's getting bigger by the day. And again, it stems back to just like, wow. And she's, we've got a beautiful little baby cub on the way, and I couldn't be more thankful for that. But again, during those tough times, mate, if you ask me, I never would have thought this could happen. But you find a little bit of hope and a little bit of light, and they can, and they really can. So that's why at the moment, I'm blessed for that. And I've got these experiences, and I'm not an expert by any means, but I've got these experiences that I've walked in. I'm walking living proof that even of the darkest times, and there was a time there where I never thought there'd be any light, but I found it, and I'm here, and I'm walking it, and I'm living these experiences, and I'm genuinely happy and have been for a long time. And I'm grateful for that. And that's why I want to sort of obviously give back. I always thought that cricket might have been my purpose, but it wasn't. Cricket was only a stepping stone to finding my purpose now. And I believe that's helping people understand what they might be going through, and through these experiences that I lived. And I wouldn't wish upon what I went through on anyone, but they obviously happened for a reason, for a purpose, to be able to help someone. And especially through these COVID times and everything that's happening, there is plenty that is going on, and people are going through these tough times, and I'm going to be there to offer as much support and help as we can.
Yeah, beautiful, mate. It's been fantastic chatting with you again and sharing that story with our audience, and I know that we can all take something from what you've said, and it's around how we respond and deal with challenges that are put before us, and they all come in different shapes and sizes, don't they? And we have the choices that how we respond and how we deal with that. Mate, love to you and Jules, and best of luck in the lead up to September. And it's been great to spend the morning with you. Thanks for getting up early. Take care. And I'm going to hand back over to CT so I can stop talking and peddling.
No, hold that for 2 seconds, mate. First of all, thank you so much, Pete, and to everyone that joined in. Congratulations to you and going on this journey with you, mate. It's special and something you certainly be proud of. And again, I'm thankful that our lines have connected. And thank you for having me, mate. It's an absolute pleasure to be able to share that and potentially inspire and motivate someone and be able to share that. So thank you, mate. Just keep pedaling for 2 seconds, because I'll take a photo for my Insta.
Good on you, mate. You've certainly inspired a lot of people, and I look forward to catching up with you again soon. So it's been fun, mate. CT?
I love it. Thank you so much, Cam. You are...
You and me, Pete, we'll take a selfie.
Yeah.
I already knew you were a wonderful man, and this interview has just cemented that even further. So thank you for coming on this morning, sharing your story. I've certainly heard and seen so much from our side and from Pete's side, but never the story of someone who was actually in it and experiencing it, come to life. So thank you for sharing. And I know that just from the chats, I can see everybody's loved it this morning.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Amazing.
So team,
so much,
this afternoon we are going to do a live crossing to Home Hug, which will be so exciting. The kids are gearing up to come in and say hello and give you a little bit of a tour around their beautiful home. So if you fancy a double session today, jump back on at 12 o'clock and do another 25 Ks. I reckon Renee might be on for that one. It's her favourite home. And then look, on Monday, we are going to be joined by Nicole Bradley, who was co-captain of the Australian team for the 2018 Invictus Games. So that will be an amazing chat with Scott Stein. And then next week, we've got some more amazing guests coming up. But for today, that is us done this morning. Thank you again, Cam. Thanks, Pete. And I wish you all a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week.
See everyone.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
See you, mate.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.